It's my pleasure tonight to introduce my friend John Hollingshead from the Central Florida Woodturners, and he's going to demonstrate these gorgeous, gorgeous oval vases. Isn't that gorgeous? Yeah.
Thank you, Rita. Again, I'm John Hollingshead. I'm from Central Florida Woodturners. I did this demo first, I think, in 2019, and Rita cornered me at the symposium and asked me if I'd do it again. I said I'd be glad to. So then I had to go back out and turn a couple of them, make sure I remember how to do it. I called this the squash bowl, and this came about because my mom in her last years was in she moved from a 3-bedroom apartment in one of these, multi-level things to the assisted living section, and she'd moved into 1-bedroom apartment, so she didn't have a lot of space anymore. So I was trying to think of projects I could do that could fit on small shelves and that sort of thing. And as I'm walking out of her, down in the lobby area one day, they had these nice blown glass vases, a couple of them sitting out, arranged, and they were always changing stuff, so it always looked fresh. And I just got kind of attached to that shape. I thought, oh, this is great. How could I turn this? So I figured out and thought, and I finally came up with this process. And then after I'd done it a couple of times, I'm going through old papers and stuff. And darn it, I hadn't copied an article out of American Woodturner by Art Liestman in it was 2012. I was calling it my squash bowl, because I like to squash it. He called it the lost wood process. And he does an article that you can find in volume 27.4, Beyond Round. And he describes the process exactly the way I came up with it. So, and obviously I copied this, I obviously read it, I just didn't remember it. So I don't know if I should feel bad that I don't remember and took this process, or if I should feel good that even though I didn't remember it, I still remember what he put in the article and came up with it. But if you are interested in it, you can look up his article, Art Liestman, Liestman, and that'll pull it up. There's also another one by Lowell Converse called the Lost Wood Process. He does it on multi-levels. I'm just doing it in 2 points. So here's the concept. Get this flat design, and normally it looks like this. I have them like this for a reason. But you want to take your 2 pieces that you're going to turn and use at the end, like these, and then you sandwich those around a piece of waste wood, which I knew I was wrong. Piece of waste wood. This is just 2x4 that I've milled down. So, then you have 2 other pieces of waste wood that you glue up here just so you can turn a nice tin in. So when you get done, you get this big old honker. It's usually smaller. This is one of my bigger pieces. Turn it around, and then you put the shape on the outside, hollow it. Then you split off the wood pieces, glue them together, easy peasy. So, a little bit of the design process goes into it. The first is to get this kind of almond shape, I kind of just picked the golden rule and I took whatever the width was times 1.62 gives you the height. You know, and then you fudge it so that it works with your wood piece. But these more or less run along those lines. So then you got a couple of pieces of wood and you're trying to figure out, it's kind of not necessarily intuitive, but the difference that makes them look really squashed, like this one, versus that general shape, but not as squashed, look at those profiles, is how big a waste wood you're using. The bigger the waste wood is, the skinnier your piece is going to be. The skinnier your waste wood is, the thicker it's going to be. So if you want one, so I have these arranged in this order simply because this little camper piece, this was the waste wood that I used. These two pieces were initially attached to each side of this part, I call it. And I kind of work out a ratio. I like 0.7. So if and that's probably on this end of it. So, see how many of these the other day, someplace. You measured the ratio of the waste wood to one side. So if your waste block, if your piece that you're going to do, one side of it is X, and the waste wood that you're going to put in between is Y. This was about 3.5, so this was about 3.5 times the size, the width of that piece. This was about 1.37, 1.24, 1.16, and this was about 0.72, sorry. So that's going to determine how thick or how thin the piece is. So then you may wonder, well, if I've got a block of wood, how big a piece can I put it on and still use most of the wood? Because I guess so this is kind of what I was talking about before. This is a thinner waste block. You're going to get medium shape here. If you have a real thick waste block, you're taking a smaller part of the circle, so you're going to get a skinnier part. So when you put those two together, you're going to get this kind of pointed nose. So if that's what you're going for, keep that in mind. But you might ask, well, how big a circle should I use if I've got a piece of wood and I want to use as much of it as possible? So what radius do I get if I want to use, what's the biggest radius I can get using this shape that is, let me see what my W's open. This is the width, and this dimension is the thickness. Yeah. Well, you could use math and figure out that if this is a radius, this is radius minus the thickness, this is 1/2 of W. That green theorem, you put that all in, you stuff around. and you get, the radius would be the width squared divided by 8 times the thickness plus the thickness divided by 2. So we are, everybody got that memorized? All right. Or you need to get yourself a circle. One of these things, plop your thing on it and just figure out, you know, what dimension comes up to the top of the piece and still comes in through down here. And, usually you're going to have to take some off the top or some off the sides. It's not going to be exact, but that can kind of give you an idea to make your piece as big as you can make it with one little piece of wood you got. Because the nice thing about this design is you can take smaller pieces of wood and come up with something when you turn it this way, makes them look bigger. So none of these are very wide pieces of wood. This is cut off of the same board that this is. So it's probably, oh, I'm guessing maybe it was probably 2 inches maybe before I turned it around. So you can buy a nice piece of wood that's not too thick and get a bowl out of it that you wouldn't otherwise have. If you're looking for a small space, they can fit in small spaces. If there's a feature of the wood, this box elder was, you know, about maybe that big around, and probably about that thick. But it had a nice box elder red splay, so I wanted to try to save that. If I had turned it as a platter, it would have been in the bottom of the bowl, may look great, but it wouldn't have been a very thick bowl. And for some reason, I just don't do a lot of bowls, so I try to do something else. If you have a design like the resin cast or this one, you can, if you did that, you could do it on a bowl. Nobody says you can't, but if you do it on a squash bowl, then you're kind of orienting your design for the viewer. So that's another positive for this design. So let's do something. The first step is glue it up. And one of the features that makes this work is that you glue the wood to your waste block using a paper glue joint. So you glue a piece of cardboard, a piece of paper bag to your piece, then you glue it to the waste block. That's the way you go. What can I tell you about the best paper bag to use? Well, I've got some examples here. Here's Firehouse. Here's Chipotle. One of my favorites. Here's Alpac. Or here's Vulcan. And I'll pass these around because the Firehouse, I labeled it, would probably work in a pinch, but it's kind of thick. You want something, you can do this, a paper glue joint with newspaper. I like something for this project because you're turning fairly big pieces of wood for a glue joint. I like something a little more substantial than newspaper. If you're doing something really tiny, newspaper probably work fine. I know I've used it in the past, I don't remember a while. But if you can feel the difference between a Firehouse bag. Chipotle's a little better. Pulte would probably be perfectly fine. I do use Outback because it's a little bit heavier. It feels good and sturdy. So it's kind of my go-to. As a side benefit, I can always suggest that we get Outback because I need some more paper bags. Surprisingly, I pulled this out today and I've never used it with all the bags you can buy there at the store. But that's a good paper bag, so that would work. I think that would work great. But I'm not going to try it for the first time here. So I've already glued up one. Just kind of go through the steps. Before I can, let me go ahead and get this glued. For all this you can see. Take my Outback, stretch it out, but make sure it's good and flat. You don't want to use where it overlaps. You don't want to use, now, in my design, I could care less, but somebody that was doing a similar demo once was saying that the ink from these can transfer to your piece. Well, at the end, my piece is going to be this thin, so, and that's going to be glued to the other piece, so I don't care. But if you were doing some design that was going to show, you'd probably want to just get a piece that doesn't have design on it. So this is a piece, I bought this wood in a garage sale. They said it was Coca-Cola and they wanted the arm and leg for it. I don't think it's Coca-Cola. I've investigated, I think it's Babinga, but I got a big, tall tower of it. But I still like it. So I wasn't going to pay like it was Coca-Cola, but I just gave him a leg for it, not an arm. And it makes a nice bowl. Something about the layers, if you cut it flat, you get this real psychedelic design. If you turn it around, it'll start, if you look at it this way, it's just little tiny thin lines. So between the two of them, you start getting the shape starts coming out, but it's still pretty wiggly. I'll show you. So take this. You use a credit card or past card to get into St. Hamptons. If you guys might have gotten a card like this before, I've gotten several. This one's actually for me. I used to get them from my mom, because that's her mail. Anyway, just get yourself a nice card. You don't want it too thick, but you do want it to cover. Kind of get it thin, but then I also cover those pieces. Put glue on both sides. So glue and glue. Then I put a hard surface underneath it. Go down. Apply pressure. And let that dry. Then I trim off the paper. And this part is fairly significant to the process. I find the center line on the piece. And when I have both pieces together, I measure and I mark. I don't know if you can see that, there's a little pencil line here. It hits the center on both ends. And then I just mark on each side. They don't have to be the center on the sides, but they do have to line up with the other piece. So I'm doing this marking when I have both of them together, like this, so that those lines line up. Then I find the center on my waste block. My process is use this layout tool. Measure what the length is, half. Actually, already pre-marked this one. Then make sure that I got in the middle, and come back from the other side. In this case, if I use a pencil, it's close. I use the marker, it's a little bit off, but those lines are close enough that you can split that difference with your eye pretty well. And the point being that you want to, when you glue your block on your waste block, the piece is going to be turning like this, so you need to have the center line of your waste block and the center line of your ends. So then when you mount it between centers, it's going to spin and it's going to turn your piece symmetrically, which is not critical on some pieces. But if you have two pieces of wood, that's a pretty good example, where you want, on your seam line, you want the wood design to look like it's all coming together. I did a pretty good job on this piece so that the grain lines and the coloring and stuff carried through from one side to the other. Yeah, this is another example, good example. This piece, I didn't cut the wood in half. This is two pieces from the same board lined up together, and you just, instead of this one, the grain pattern, the end grain pattern, you just took the same two pieces and you flop them over so that the grain patterns are kind of mirror images of each other. That works pretty well too. So you want to mark the centers so that when you glue this piece of wood down, you're going to have it lined up on that. So I've got my mark on the end and my little something. What else we need to do?
Up there. Then I marked the side, and it don't matter where, but it's gonna be the same on both sides. So mark that line. Then mark this way. And just draw some reference lines so that when I'm moving it up, I'm gonna have a better shot of getting it in the right spot. So, same process, glue on it, spread it out, try to get it thin, so you don't have a lot of squish out. Same on the wood, on the waste block. Then you set it down. Now, when you're gluing two pieces of wood and you want to get them exactly in the same spot, you got glue on both of them. It's like wrestling with a needle. Does anybody know the secret to keeping your two pieces from squishing all around like that when you're gluing them together?
Salt, sand.
Oh, I don't know. So, I'll try salt, well, sand. I don't know. Like sand on it? Where?
Super fine, yeah.
I'll try salt and sand sometime. However, one that works reasonably well is if you've got your glue on there, on both sides, you got plenty of glue. You apply pressure, give it 2 minutes. I'm just using, wood glue. Give it a couple minutes, it starts to get a little bit tackier. It doesn't move around on you as much. You can start to, get it lined up, and it's going to stay where you put it. The trick is, if you want to put some pressure on that, you can use clamps. I found clamps are hard to clamp wood without it, because the clamp, unless it's coming down perfectly symmetrically, it's going to have movement to it. However, rubber bands work pretty good. You move it, you put it on there. This is hard to demo because I usually put my waist block in the vise, so it's sitting. But if it's already got the glue on it, it's already moving around. I don't care about that. I get my rubber band on, and then I kind of flip, and that happens. So I was going to get more rubber bands before I did the demo. I don't know about 5 other things I was going to do before I did the demo. But anyway. You lift up, get the tension released so that you apply it evenly and you line it up. That works pretty well too. I like rubber bands more than clamps. So, those are my tips and tricks to gluing up. So once you're glued up, you got a piece like this. However, it's not like this. It's in rough form, so it's a big square. And it turns, makes a pretty good fan when it first goes on. So be careful when you're starting turning on it, because especially if it's a lathe you're not used to. My lathe went on the fritz, and so I was using my father-in-law's lathe. Wasn't used to it, so of course it had it's on and off up here instead of on the front. And, so you got to watch the teeth of the chuck, or it can beat your thumb and cut it up. My left thumb will attest to that. If you're not also used to the fact that his tool rest can come loose on you and turn into a piece, and then when this thing's square, it can hit your right thumb and do some damage there. So I've had a week. But anyway, you turn it around, and this is what you start with, bit pinning on it, and you're good to go. My father-in-law got me into wood turning. He lived a few blocks from us, so I first would go over and turn at his place, and I got my own little lathe and turned my place. And he passed away just after the symposium. He was 92. Turned all day on Saturday and then wake up Sunday. So it was a good way to go if you're a wood turner. But I've inherited all his stuff, and he had different kind of chucks than I had. So this is a new chuck. This is one of his chucks that I use because it can grip bigger than mine. But I've never used these claws before, so hopefully it doesn't come off. just warning you. All right. So, all right, well, if you were hoping to get tips and tricks on how to turn, I'm not your guy. I'm always doing something new, doing something different. I've been trying to learn, watch a lot of videos, and we brought Mark Soleil down to our club, and he went to his workshop. So I'm working on his approach, and it's making me better, but I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert turner. I'm a fidgeter. So. Anyway, what we're going for is I come up about a third, and I'm putting a big bead from top to bottom. And then on the top part, the top 2/3, it's also gradual. I'll lower the end down to about the diameter that I want the top to be. And then that's going to be a graceful curve, so that it ultimately is one big curve with the high point being about a third. So that means
like, I can get you a higher platform. You want a platform to stand on? Yeah, I'll go get it.
That'd be great.
Yeah, keep going and I'll get it.
I'm used to working on my mini blades. I'm pumped over one. Okay, that's probably a little short, but I probably don't want. So this ought to be about half of the width. Looking okay to me. Probably won't be as tall a bowl as this block is, being taken off some off the top. So let's go ahead and get a little of that done. All right, I'd probably spend another hour doing the outside, getting it right. And then I'd sand it. I'd sand it. I want to get the outside pretty much finished, but you're not going to do, you want to finish your turning, and I would do most of my sanding, but not the final preparation. Because you're going to be working on that, this outside surface, and later in the process when you're gluing it up together, and no matter how good you are, when you glue the two pieces together, you're going to have a little glue squeeze out on the edge, ideally, because you want it to be firm. You don't want to have any gaps. So you're going to have to lightly hand sand that off. So you're still going to be, a lot of people like to do their sanding all on the lathe and go through all their grits. You know, if you're used to doing 400, I'd go to 220 now, and then probably,
How do you know when you're, like when it's turning, if you're not getting too thin on the outside?
on the outside,
Yeah.
well, you stop
Just
and
on the top, but on the bottom. How do you reduce?
on the bottom, going forms, taking it down and going all the way through,
Okay.
because you have this much waste that you're going to, and what's going to happen is, I'll deal with that now. This is reverse bend. It's a hollowing hook, but it's not hollowing from this end. It's the hollow from this end. So I use this, once I get this pretty much round, coming all the way down, I'll come in on the bottom side and notch in so that you have you'll come in and you'll hollow back, and you hollow back and flat on this wood, and when you glue these two together, you've got your, you always want to have you don't want it perfectly flat, you want it round on a bowl, so that it sets flat. And I'll do that. I don't know if you can see. I haven't gone all the way through the waste, all the way through the wood, the finished piece yet. I'll leave some because when I'm hollowing, I've got my waste down here. I like that being glued. I mean, that's all still part of the wood. It's all glued together. It's not flying off. But I will at least want to do it before I start hollowing so that I know what my bottom is, what my bottom's going to be. And then after I've hollowed out, I'll come back and I'll part this off by, I'm not parting it off so that it comes off the lathe. I'm just parting it so that this piece is no longer, I'll go deep enough that this piece of the wood is here, goes all the way into here. Because when it comes off, it's going to be the bottom. It'll still be glued up. So I call it parting off, but it's not parting off. But I'll just do enough at this stage that I know where my bottom's going to be. That's okay, I'll undercut it a little bit more in. So once I get the outside shaped to a look that's pleasing, this is not uniform. I would take more time and get that smooth and get it one continuous arc. But I kind of like the dimensions. It's going to work okay. So that's outside. So then you go to the hollow. I'm not going to hollow this big piece. There. Almost time. So I was first going to hollow this piece for you. And when I turned it outside, it had a huge crack in it. So I hastily tried to work up another blank, and I just stuck the epoxy in this mortar. So does anybody have bad reactions to camphor? Does anybody mind if I turn camphor? I personally like it. It's great turning wood. I'll clear everybody's sinuses. I'll slow it down. I thought about that.
John, you need to reduce yours?
Yeah.
I brought mine.
Oh, did you? Okay. I found one somewhere. Thank you, Rita. So this is a little squatter, fatter piece of almond. I mean, it's a camphor wood, almond shape. This is what I had in the shop that I could grab on short notice. So, one benefit to having this waste area is that you can drill holes in this as a depth gauge for you as you hollow. So I usually use I just eyeball the midline of the waste wood. On both sides. And then I'll mark half inch, 1.5. My marks are 1 inch apart. And on this side, so this side I did 1/2 inch, so this side I'll start at 1 inch. Still make them 1 inch apart so that you're not having your holes too close together on one side, but if you alternate them that way, then when it's spinning, you're getting the depth gauge about every 1/2 inch. Of course, it's a great feature if you're not falling asleep and you're watching your depth gauge. Because if you don't watch your depth gauge, you're going to go through your wood anyway. I did this first bowl I ever turned over at Bob's. He was teaching me to hollow it out, and I was hollowing, and I got just kind of got into a rhythm. And suddenly, you know, I turned through it. So that's the first hollow form I ever did. I did this week. So, this second time. And dang it if I didn't go right through the little hollow thing. But you put these in, you go, I like about a quarter inch deep. We got a plug around here? Oh, that one. And this is 1/2 inch. If it was a smaller piece, I'd probably use 3/8. Oh, there we go.
That gonna work?
Yeah,
Look at that.
it turned up too. Nice shot. Okay, I'm only going to put one. There's a couple in. Just needed to see you do it. So the benefit of doing all of that measuring initially and getting your waste block marked and getting your pieces glued on is that when you then turn it, it's going to be symmetrical. If you're, oh, and I should have mentioned this. I usually use pine as my waste block because it's 2x4 and plentiful. But I do mill them flat. If I need more, I glue them together. But ultimately, before I use it, I mill it so that this face is parallel to this face. Because if that's off, then when you turn it, one side's going to be a little bit fatter than the other side, and when you glue them up, then you're going to have to really sand the nose off. And not that that's the end of the world, but you know, then you have to do it a lot. Then it's a round bowl again. It's a lot of effort to get the shape and not get the benefit from it.
We are running a little short on time.
Okay.
We got maybe
20 minutes?
more like 10 at the most.
Okay, okay. Well, then, I don't need to show you this part, but I hollow this out just like a hollow ball. And the benefit is you see, as you get deeper, once you open a hole, you'll see little sawdust start popping out at that level. It kind of helps you. I mean, up here at the end, you can see it fine. But when you get down the bottom, it's always a little extra. The other thing I tell you about when you're hollowing is, start out, I do fine. As I get deeper, I usually go ahead and use either rubber bands on the outside, because once you get about halfway, right now, there's a whole face of glued wood to wood that's holding this thing on. Once you get down towards the bottom and you're still hollowing, you're putting pressure out, and it's being held by a paper seam that is about this wide, running all the way up to the top. So it's just getting held on by what's left at the bottom, basically. You'll start, if it starts to come apart, if you're paying attention, you can start hearing a little tick. And it will usually be up here at the top. But I've just gotten where, since I haven't finished it yet, I'll use Gorilla Tape. I'll use rubber bands. Rubber bands is fine for some, this side. You just don't want the thing flying off, or you may get a catch. This was a pretty piece, gonna be until it flew off the lathe. I had to glue it back to finish it. And thankfully, I'd chosen greens and blues as the resins because my Bob's wife loves greens and blues. So she got the bowl, even though it's busted out. Anyway, so that's how I protect myself that way by attaching, taping the things together so that they don't fly off. I've only had it happen with that bowl, and I've had the seam tick before I put stuff on. But if you put tape on, then you should have holes in so you still get your benefit of the holes. So, last thing you got to do is take it off. So we're going to do that with this. So you take the chisel. Yeah, that's all right. So we'll see if we can bar off the good side. Challenge because I didn't hollow at all. But it was all still far off. So, imagine a fully hollow piece with a matching fully hollowed other side. So then it becomes, you gotta get this off. So I found the best thing is to use sandpaper on a flat thing. You can go ahead and scrape it with a chisel. Other things you just don't want to damage the wood because that flat surface is going to have to match up with the other flat surface. So when you get close, then you just elbow grease, working it off. Then you go back to gluing. You glue I use wood glue still. I don't put, you want a full coverage, but you don't want a lot of squeeze out because getting it out to the inside, you got to use a long Q-tip that Rita used to supply me with the long stick. I still have some, by the way.
That was when I worked.
Yeah. Then you put them together. They're going to wiggle around on you. Use the rubber bands. I band them up good, and then I'll get them so they're not wiggling on you. But then you set them on a flat surface so that you get your bottoms. Otherwise, it's going to have a tilt to it. So you get it seated well. Get the rubber bands so that it's not moving on you. Let it dry. Then you come back and you do some light finish hand sanding. If it's going to be a piece like this, you're going to have a big opportunity before you glue them together to come in here with a little hand tool, little sander or something and really
clean up the inside. If it's got to have a resin that you want to be able to see through, you can put a polish on it so that it's like glass. So that's another advantage to this technique. Other than that, that's how you get squash built. Anybody have any questions? Well, that's it. Thank you guys for having me.